Next up, we have someone new to our ranks. We're excited to have her. J M Monaco is a tiny independent city-state on France's Mediterranean coastline. She's known for her upscale casinos, but ironically, she's a socialist. I don't know anything about her. Her name's J M Monaco. Very excited to have her. Oh, hold on, one last thing. She actually said something for me to actually read out. That's not nonsense. Hold on. The story she's about to read made it into her novel How We Remember, which is about to be published in September by Red Door Publishing. Please put your hands together for J M Monaco.
Thank you. This is called Ivy League. My interview was with the Dean of the Mature Students Program and a student. The Dean was an older hippie soul who wore a flowing skirt and had long graying hair. The student was male, white, around 35 with a buzz cut. He wore thick glasses that made his eyes look tiny, like a rat's, and a shirt and tie that made him appear more serious than the Dean. I could feel the sweat in my armpit beginning to trickle down my right arm, but I was determined to hold my shit together and do my best to act like a smart person. I've developed a very big love of the arts over the years, I said, sitting tall and smiling, just as I had practiced in the mirror that morning. I guess I showed some talent when I was younger for drawing, but now I like to see art and learn about the history and all that sort of thing. I see you have a fine program here for the arts, the liberal arts, and fine arts, and all other kinds of art stuff. She nodded, smiled for a few seconds, and asked if I'd been to any exhibitions recently. Exhibitions? I hesitated. Oh yeah, I've seen Norman Rockwell's work at the Norman Rockwell Museum in the Berkshires, I said, with as much enthusiasm as I could muster. On the way home from a weekend away. It wasn't exactly recent, but I had dragged my mother there on our way home from a day trip to Western Massachusetts. The outing was my brother Dave's idea, his attempt, he said, to bring him, our mother, and me together for the day. He had spent a weekend in the Berkshires once with a girlfriend he'd met during one of his stints in the hospital. I was always skeptical about these relationships of his. Weren't these addicts just bound to encourage each other and fall off the wagon? Dave bragged that his girlfriend's parents were academics. They had a big second home in the Berkshires near Amherst. Apparently they were from old money, a preferable option, Dave indicated, to the new money types. To look at them, you'd never know it. You wouldn't ever guess they were loaded. They don't wear fancy clothes or drive nice cars. It's all understated. But they have big houses, lots of money in the bank, and trust funds for their kids. That's what Sally is, he said. She's a trust fund baby. The rest of us who didn't have the luck of being born into old money would be forever stuck in narrow crevice-like places. But if they had trust funds and future inheritances, which meant they never had to worry about where their next meal came from, why were they just as messed up as we were? What excuse did they have? Wasn't spring break in Acapulco enough to snap them out of their misery? When I was young, I always dreamed of becoming an illustrator, and Rockwell's been a favorite of mine, I told the Dean. I like Monet paintings too. I've been to the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston. The Dean liked that. Then the subject changed to my impressive community college grades. Well, we can see you've really worked hard in every subject. Looks like you're a great all-rounder, she said with genuine interest. Rad Eyes decided to interject. Why in the world did you take Intro to Physics if you might want to major in art history? What kind of things do you expect from doing a degree here? He narrowed his eyes even more in anticipation. I wouldn't have taken the stupid physics class if someone at the college hadn't said something ridiculous like, oh, it can't hurt, you know, for a liberal arts degree, and you'll definitely be able to transfer the credits, but I didn't tell him this. Somehow I walked through the cauldron of his cross-examination and reached the other side intact. Well, I've been so excited about just learning as much as I can about everything and anything in the world. Nothing's ever wasted on me. Nope. I was quick on my feet, picking up on what the Dean had said about being an all-rounder. I worked hard to sound natural and relaxed. I want to be as well-rounded a human being as possible I'd try to understand the world in its entirety. Physics was tough, and I got stuck sometimes, but I saw my professor for lots of help, and I felt so rewarded afterwards. And you know, I think art is a reflection of the world and everything in it, like physics and science and all sorts of other things. Politics, philosophy. Yeah, I just want to learn everything. That's really great. It's so great. We like our students to be well-rounded and inquisitive, the nice dean said. Yes, I didn't really see that. The atmosphere here just kind of gives that impression. I smiled, trying to imagine what Acapulco was like at spring break. The student continued to stare me down, sensing, I'm sure, that I was bullshitting. But the dean extended a friendly handshake and a quiet chuckle. Thank you so much for taking the time to come and see us. It's been so nice to meet you. I liked this woman very much, although afterwards, when I retraced all that was said, I wondered seriously if her overly warm style was a form of sarcasm I hadn't spotted earlier. A few weeks later, I was shocked to receive a letter from the university telling me I was in spite of the student who hated me. I was accepted to the State University of Massachusetts, Amherst, also around the same time, although they didn't seem bothered about wanting to interview me, and I didn't care about visiting them. I looked through the brochure, been that way to see some of the Berkshires on that day trip I brought up during my Fancy Pants Ivy League interview. The University of Massachusetts, or UMass, was miles away in the green hills and mountainous western part of the state, a world apart from everything that was home and too familiar. Parents, brother, mental hospital, weird aunts and uncles. A family combination that most sensible people want to avoid. A new start, that's what I wanted. In my mind, I constructed an image of myself as someone who worked a quiet job in a second-hand bookshop with a relaxed, contented smile on my face. I thought, hey, maybe I can even try to pass myself off as one of those understated trust fund baby types. My therapist, Constance, asked me to call her straight away with the news when the letter arrived from the Ivy League. I could hardly get the words out for tears when I tried to tell her the news. I can't go there. It's for rich kids, not townies like me. I can blend in with the rest of them at UMass. That's where I belong. She didn't reply right away. Joe, she said, then hesitated. If you don't take this up, you might regret it. It's really simple. It's just a better institution, better reputation, and there are others like you there. You'll see. And look, they wouldn't have accepted you if they didn't want you. So I told my mother the news, told my friends, convinced myself I should go to a fancy Ivy League university after all, and that it was cause for a small celebration. My parents and I had beers in the backyard of the house. The temperature was mild, the evening May sun warm, a reasonable enough time for a barbecue. Jimmy, isn't it great? Ma said. Your daughter got into an Ivy League. Oh, Joe, that's so great. It's so great. I'm so happy for you. She came over to my chair to offer a hug, tears in her eyes. My mother's attention and excitement kind of made me happy and annoyed at the same time. Meanwhile, my father was quiet, as usual, puffing away at a big cigar. At that time, he'd grown a mustache, a goatee, and sported a stud earring. His expression showed a kind of fullness before he'd even eaten. It was the kind of look you might see in a fat cat. Yeah, tell me something though, he laughed. What kind of strings did you pull to manage that one? Oh, Jimmy, stop, my mother said, looking at me to see if I was laughing too, then slapped his arm. I chuckled along. Ha! What a hoot! Ha! What a riot! Yeah, that was hilarious. Good question. Yes. What kind of tricks did I play to gain entry into that ivory tower? That squeaky clean place that reserves its seats only for those young pert asses, the offspring of the distinguished, and of course, did I mention already, the financially comfortable? I realized my dear old dad's sting didn't veer too far from the truth on this occasion. My average high school grades wouldn't have gotten a look in. This was when my good luck kicked in. I just happened to be around when the university admissions office was trying to do something to enhance the diversity of its student body. Not fair, really, having all these privileged trust fund babies all in one place. Have to mix it up a bit. someone thought. Get in some other types. I know, let's contact those community colleges and see what kind of specimens they have. That's why they included older Tommies like me who did okay at the local community college, where, let's face it, there weren't too many future Nobel Prize winners. As I guzzled my beers and took another one of my mother's cigarettes, I couldn't fight the longing during these visits home. I mused on the prospect of someone like me studying at a place where I didn't belong. In my head, I began to add up the money from the loans I would need. I had already taken out loans to get me through community college, and I began to lose count of how many years I'd be paying them all back. Okay, so maybe I would borrow less, I thought, and just work as many evening shifts as I could at the printing company where I did casual work. Who said I needed lots of sleep or food? It would be a long road, but then on the other hand, wouldn't I land a dream job and have a dream life with an Ivy League degree? I took my beer to the front by the driveway and had a good look at the house. For years, the brown paint on the window frames had been peeling away. A soiled offcut from an old carpet was slung over the railing near the front door. The white door was stained with grimy fingerprints, particularly around the knob. Why hadn't I noticed all this before? The mess of what my father called his car repair business occupied the space at the side of the house where he had put up a corrugated lean-to roof. Dark oil spots permeated the tarmac. In the peak of summer heat, they steamed up and created a stifling smell. Dirty rags, barrels full of spare parts, cans overflowing with cigarette butts, and tools filled every corner. Not far from all the filth was my father's shiny Ford pickup truck. Every few years he bought himself a new one to replace the old. The truck was needed, he claimed, to pull the 6-person capacity motorboat that sat behind it, the newer one he had just purchased, which allowed him to treat his love of deep-sea fishing. Priorities were important, after all. Parked on the street was his red 2-door sports car, just washed and waxed. That was better on gas, my everyday car, he told me with a proud twinkle. My father's cigar had left a thick scent in the air, even here. I had started to feel the dizzying effect of the alcohol and sat down on the front steps. After a few minutes, my mind began to wander up and down. Education, books, intellectual conversations. Would I have them? Would I not? Could I fake them? Work, jobs, money, more money, Acapulco, no money, never enough money, food, hunger, desire, understated clothes, trust fund babies, boats, shiny cars, more money, men's smelly cigars, cool men's earrings, booze, lies, strings. Oh, and all those strings, the many strings being pushed and pulled, spun and weaved together in Jimmy O'Brien's universe. Thank you.